So, part 3. The old engine's out. It was the number 5 rod bearing. I'll throw a picture in this video at the end to show you guys what the bearing shell looked like. The crank actually doesn't look too bad, so I think this thing is rebuildable, surprisingly enough. Still probably going to part it out, but I don't know, if somebody buys it from me, I guess I would consider that. Here's the SMG transmission and pump out of this car. The claimed 300-mile-old pump. Not sure if that's 300 miles. That looks pretty old to me. Might even be original. The clutch definitely looked pretty much brand new. The donor engine also had a nice clutch on it. This thing was working just fine, so it's still a saleable part. You can see the mechatronic unit on the back there, where it's just bolted into a standard 6-speed manual transmission. And there's the sweet electronic slave cylinder. You can run these as manual, but there's no spring detents in them. So if you were to put this transmission in a car with a shifter, it would work, but the shifter would just sort of stay where you put it. Like if you put it in neutral, it would just flop around and potentially it would end up in a gear, which is bad. Not necessarily the end of the world if it's just a beater or something like that, but on this car I wouldn't do it. You can drill and tap up here for spring detents, make it a true manual, or you could just get a bell housing from a 6-speed or get a 6-speed, probably the best option. The new engine's in the car. I have a lot of this stuff bolted right back up now. Going in pretty well. I'm just now having issues with the manual swap because right now I've got this ZF 5-speed, which I'm going to try to put in it, which is a little unorthodox. And the top here is the standard e46 M3 drive shaft, the bottom's the 330. So I was told that the front of the drive shaft needs to be extended 4 inches on the M3 to run the 5-speed, which looks correct. However, what I didn't know is that the distance between the diff and the center bearing is also different. So I either need to shrink the rear half of the 330 or increase the length of the front half of the M3 drive shaft to make that fit, or buy a 6-speed transmission or modify that one. So that's why I have yet to put a clutch on this thing, or a flywheel, because they're different. The 6-speed runs a 12 spline, a little bit bigger diff diameter. So runs a different drive shaft, everything. It's just a pain in the butt. So yet to decide exactly what to do on this, but getting as much of the front accessories bolted up as I can on this thing. I'd like to get it together enough to start it, but really that requires a flywheel and a transmission. So not just yet. Hopefully some decisions will be made today. I'm calling around a lot of places to see if anybody will touch a two-section drive shaft. But we'll see. I'm still trying hard for the 5-speed manual at this point. All right, foot's on the brake. So, here it is. It runs, there's no knocking. That's a replacement engine. The swap actually went pretty well. The only thing I really destroyed was the exhaust gas temperature pyrometer on the other side of the engine. However, it doesn't seem like the car really cares at this point. Still a bit messy in here, I haven't fully buttoned it up. But, as you can see, now it also has 3 pedals. And ignore the 5-speed knob, that's all I had. It's actually a 6-speed Getrag 420. That's what I ended up going with. And then that looks a little ghetto, but it's actually kind of the best way to do it. I don't really feel like going into explaining, but it's better when it's mounted to the chassis than it is when it's mounted to the transmission. And in order to do an SMG to manual swap on one of these, you actually have to weld in a piece of sheet metal underneath. So I think this is a less elegant but much better solution. So you do get a little more shifter rock on idle like this, but that's really the only downside. Runs and drives okay. It's a Christmas tree right now. It's going in for coating on Monday to get that display turned off for the SMG. I don't know how much of that was there before. Low on washer fluid apparently. The DSC I think is also a fault because of the SMG computer being gone. But we'll see. I'll fill you guys in. I also have to either remove these paddles, which no longer do anything, or replace the steering wheel with a regular M3 wheel, which I have. But other than that, I've sprayed a whole bunch of Nature's Miracle in here to make it not smell like mouse piss anymore. And that actually is pretty effective so far. Naviworks, this overlay carbon fiber crap is falling off. Oof. Anyway, don't need to bore you with that stuff. But anyway, it runs and drives. It's a little down on power because the computer doesn't know what's going on, but we'll get there.